What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Urban Discipleship Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about finance, social media guru Dave Ramsey, and him raising his rents to the market rate. Um, how are Christians supposed to conduct their business when it comes to its effect on how people live? We're going to talk about it on the Urban Discipleship Podcast. Welcome.
Urban Discipleship Podcast.
Okay, welcome to the Urban Discipleship Podcast, where we always endeavor to do two things. That is exalt Christ
and to enhance relationships.
Yes, welcome. We're going to talk about Dave Ramsey, who is famous for his financial advice, specifically getting out of debt as fast as you can, as soon as you can, and then using your income to build wealth, right? Maybe we'll link to his YouTube page. So many of us, especially in the Black community, need some guidance.
We need some Dave Ramsey in our life.
We need some guidance with our finances. I'll say this is, I guess it is kind of a finance post, right? And we are not offering financial advice, but Dave Ramsey is a polarizing figure in the finance community because of his how he is so adverse to debt, and then naturally you're going to have some other people who say that there's a such thing as good debt. And some people will try to use their debt to generate profit in other places. So it's a big discussion, but Dave is on the side of get rid of the debt as fast as you can. Specifically, today we're going to be talking about Dave Ramsey because he is a real estate owner and a landlord. Let me say, both you and I are landlords now.
Well, shoot,
not
my
as
brother
many.
Stay in the other properties, so I get off like a bandit.
Well,
I love that dude, though.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm thinking about our property in Cleveland. So so we.
I do forget about that, bro.
Right.
Thank God you don't.
Shout out to the people in Cleveland. Shout out to the people in Cleveland. Yes, we do own a property in Cleveland, and so we don't own as many units as Dave, and we haven't.
But Rob, I don't think Dave is talking about himself though. He's talking about he's asking a question.
He's asking a
on
question.
His show. Like this dude asked a question about whether or not he should raise the rent because the overhead is going up.
And Dave is trying to help him think through that.
Think through that, right?
Yes, and Dave is a Christian.
Yes,
and so and he runs his business as Christianly possible. We're just talking about Chris Tucker and how Christians bring their faith to bear in their occupation. Dave, he works very hard at trying to bring it. Maybe there's some other stories we can go over another day and how
maybe paint him in a more positive light to people than this one. If we be introduced to Dave today, you're gonna have maybe bad thoughts of him, but I don't think you should.
No, I think he's a good guy, good intentions.
I don't know, Rob. I think this is a little the reaction is emotive. It's not rational, right?
Yes,
it's how we feel. It's like, oh, this makes me feel bad.
Yeah. So I think it makes me feel bad. And I think context here too, because I don't know if Dave was talking to somebody who actually makes their living off of real estate investing, right? Okay. Because luckily for you and I, we have a job, so we don't depend on that income from our real estate investments to live. So if we ever have to make this decision, we could keep rent below market rate. But what about the investor that is actually living off of their investments.
But even the person that has it as income property, it can become detrimental to his financial well-being if, like, now he won't displace someone because of their inability to pay.
Yes.
And now he's having to, somebody's paying that, right?
Well,
either that person is,
you might not own it,
or
you might not own it free and clear, right?
It's not just the money is still the homeowner is still accountable.
That's right.
To pay the mortgage.
So this is multifaceted. Is and Twitter as Twitter goes, is black and white on Twitter.
Yeah,
either you're right or wrong. So hold on. Shout out to ChristianHeadlines.com. Pick up the story there, but I'm gonna go ahead and play the video. Let Dave explain in his own
way. Himself,
right? Yeah. So we're gonna.
Okay, I own rental property, single-family homes, among many other properties that we own, and if I raise my rent to be market rate, that does not make me a bad Christian. I did not displace the person out of that house if they can no longer afford it. The marketplace did. The economy did. The ratio of the income that they earned to their housing expense displaced them. I didn't cause any of that. And so you are not displacing them. You're taking too much credit for what's going on. If they need to move to a cheaper house because they can't afford, they're going to move to a lesser house. Because if they move, they're going to pay market rent. Now, having said all of that, I've had situations, because I manage the properties with a heart and a head, both. I don't personally manage them, but we do, my family does, that someone is sick. I'll just, I remember one time, a long time ago, a lady had cancer. Am I going to evict someone in the middle of chemo? No.
So he's saying that he owns properties, and he's putting himself in the position of the caller because literally he is. I'm sure he has to go through these decisions. But you heard him there. But he's saying that it is not you who are who is putting somebody out of their home. He says that it's the market, it's the economy. Charging market rate for your real estate investment is not an unchristian thing to do.
Yes. And he also mentions in the article that we read that he's had renters, that are in his property, and they came up with cancer and were unable to pay, and he worked with them. Like he didn't just kick them out. So I think he is talking about in a general sense, but I think the context of the conversation needs to be had in light of the pandemic.
That's right.
Are these people to whom you'll be raising their rent, is it such that they can pay more, right? Or has the job market, because of the pandemic, crippled their ability to earn? Have they lost their jobs? And I think that kind of changes the conversation. We're just talking about generally without any context. It's fine. Raise the rent because overhead has gone up, right? Overhead is going up. So raise the rent. And if they cannot pay, then they have to move. But the context is a little different in light of the pandemic. So if I'm the homeowner, I'm asking more questions, right? I really want to know.
Correct.
What's going on.
Shout out to Dave for being that aware of, because he owns so many properties, for him to be aware enough to have a tenant who is going through a medical problem, and you are able to make that decision not to raise rent or not to evict them because they're going through an issue. and he's in a position where he can make that decision. Imagine, like I said, somebody who is a lesser investor or a less, he just has a property, you know, it's like all supplemental, but that property has a mortgage on there. Like, okay, here's the dilemma. Do Christians default on their debts?
We're not supposed to, no. Like Proverbs is clear, bro. Nah.
No.
If you borrowed it, you need to pay it back.
So now we're getting deeper into it, because now you ask the question, okay, so if I go into this business of providing housing for others, does that mean that their inability to pay becomes my inability to pay?
And if you have a business, then it's going to have that snowball effect, right? If they can't pay, I can't pay. However, we don't want to take away the Christian obligation. And I think Dave understands the need to be kind, the need to be understanding, the need to help people in their time of need. That Christian obligation still exists, even inside of the business world. So in these situations, I think you have to be very tactful, especially in light of the COVID-19 and the pandemic that we're going through. Got to be very tactful in how you go about your business, because you will be your stewardship of this business and how you treated people will be held into account when the Lord judges our works,
right,
as Christians. So got to be very careful. It's not black and white, and every case is not the same. Right. If I know somebody that lives in my property, has a job, and they can pay, then why not raise it? But if you have somebody that is being negatively affected by the pandemic, could it be that I evict them, but I also help them find something else? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's more ways to deal with it than it's not a binary.
No, and so even then, when you decide to help, you have to decide how much you're going to help, right? So maybe it's like a month of free rent, 2 months of free rent, 3 months, you know, or as many months as I can handle before I have to. Because we as Christians, we care about, but we recognize that sometimes the things that we are giving to, we are unable to solve them. We can help and we do as much as we can, but we may not have the complete resource to solve the problem.
And my thought goes to some passages that I kind of went through in preparation for last week's sermon, where it says, if a person comes up to you in need and you tell him be warm, be filled, and then you send them away. Right. Or if you see your brother needs food and clothing and you don't meet that need, it's consistent with somebody that doesn't know the Lord Jesus. And so those passages, they got to be in my mind, Rob. This is why thinking biblically is so necessary. I got to think these things through. I just can't think with my business mind. That's what makes us different from people who are completely profit driven.
That's right.
Do I have to take a little L in order to be consistent with my Christian ethic? Because there's a lot of things that we do, from first giving of our income to the church, like that hurts us financially, right? But that's what the Lord asks of us, and so we're obedient. And the same thing with our business. If my call to be compassionate causes me to have to take an L to some degree in my business, I should be willing to do that. But like, when do you stop, right? When do you say, okay, hey, I can't have a business no more if I keep acting this way?
If I give it away, no doubt. And I think the providing housing for others is one of those unique positions that Christians can be in, because it does affect other people. Because you could, right? If you were selling retail, whatever, selling candy, right? If a person can't afford it, you say, "Oh, well, you can't afford the candy, too bad." Right? You don't even think about what they're going through in their life or situation. However, housing is one of those basic needs, and it is a direct reflection of how what the person is going through in their life. And so here you are.
It's not easy, but I think I agree with Dave. Rob. I don't want people to think when they listen to the podcast that we're just ambiguous. Like, what we're trying to do is think things through as we talk about it. But we do have opinions on the matter. Right? And my opinion is that I agree with Dave.
Correct.
But I don't want the person that asked the question to not understand his obligation to be compassionate, his obligation to be neighborly, his obligation to be sacrificial. All that is part of being a Christian. But yet still, we're able to have businesses and to live inside of a marketplace as Christian.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go with you there and say I agree. Don't look at it, or I wouldn't look at it as I did something like, right? I have a part in it, but just understand, even when you first start real estate investing, or you first put your property on the market, somebody looked at it and said, "Oh, I can't afford that." Right? You never met them. They never put an application in. And so that can happen to somebody who is in there too. They may look at their finances and say, "Oh man, I can't afford this anymore." And so don't take it too personally. But however, we are in a position where we may be able to help, but you still have other obligations, right? That being to your family, to the person you got the mortgage, the bank you got the mortgage from. So you do have other obligations.
And just context matters. I think Dave, if you read the whole article, which we'll link to, you find out Dave understands context matters. I think as a general principle,
yes,
that's what his statement is. It's a general principle.
Yes.
However, he understands that each situation might be different. He understands context, and so he takes that into account. So I don't hear Dave as being unloving. I hear Dave as being a Christian businessman, because he understands the nuance that we have to live with. It's not black and white for us a lot of times, not as believers in the Lord Jesus.
Listen, you want to be a businessman, you want to be an entrepreneur, businessmen and women, you want to be an entrepreneur and a Christian. Oh, you're gonna have some hard decisions to make.
Yeah.
Imagine you get successful enough to have employees, and then you got listen. That's again their livelihood. This is something they need, and you have to make decisions that may or may not affect them being able to make money.
And say you have a poor employee, do you keep them on because you know they got a family and they got bills to pay, or do you remove them and say, "Hey, you're not holding your end of our contractual agreement. I'm at to let you go." That's that guy. Have you heard that guy on social media, Bubba Dub?
No.
He talks about the Lakers and he's like, "Westbrook, I'm gonna have to let you go."
Oh God.
But no, you're gonna have to let the person go. You don't keep them around just because they have a family. No. So this is the difficult things that we go through as Christians.
You want to be an entrepreneur? Shout out to Dave Ramsey, and shout out to that person that called in that's thinking about these things, man. This is what we as Christians have to do with their hard decisions.
And can we do the boo the boo button for those who
Oh,
are out there in the Twitter sphere,
the
throwing
Twitterverse.
Dave under the bus and bringing down hellfire on him.
Yeah, I don't understand this, man. And Christians, yes, we have to have sympathy and compassion for those people going through those hard situations. However, we have to have sympathy and compassion for people who are making those hard decisions, because it's easy. You just go to work every day, and then your check come in the mail or a direct deposit.
That's my life.
And you don't gotta even think about it now, man. Listen, these are hard decisions you gotta make if you want to get into the entrepreneurial side of the economy, man. It's hard decisions to make. So yeah, boo Twitter. All right, let us know what you think down into in the comments. Let us know how you would run your business. Have you ran into this problem? Let us know. We appreciate all the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're gonna let you go. Remember to do 2 things. That is, love God
and each other. Peace.
Urban Discipleship Podcast.